guys! I'm here and it's raining, unfortunately, so I've decided to make homemade pizza. I'm actually not going to use a traditional pizza dough recipe. I'm going to make it using my focaccia recipe, so we're going to get kind of a 2-in-1 demo here. You can either stop at a certain point and turn it into focaccia, or I will show you how to make it a pizza dough. It's really yummy, tasty, buttery, oily dough that you can put all kinds of toppings on and use up all that pasta sauce that you hoarded from the supermarket. At some point I'm going to come back and do a proper same-day pizza dough, but for now we're just going to do this one. Okay, so to make focaccia, or very quick pizza dough, you're going to need 500 grams of strong white bread flour, or just regular flour if you don't have that, 10 grams of salt, 10 grams of instant yeast, 140 milliliters of olive oil, plus a little bit extra for the kneading, 360 milliliters of cool water, a very cute dog named Alfie who likes to squeak in the background, and if you have any semolina flour, that's actually very helpful for the bottom of the focaccia before you put it in the oven. I don't have any, so I'm gonna not have that on my recipe, but I'll tell you when to add that. And to finish it, if you're making focaccia, you just need some oregano and sea salt or any other herbs you have available in your household. But for me, I'm going to convert it into tiny little pizza doughs and then little discs of personal pan pizzas, and then I'll do my toppings and that kind of thing. Okay, so I have my 500 grams of bread flour, and what I'm gonna do is actually add salt to one side. And again, I have a total of, how much salt? 10 grams of salt. Sorry, my camera's not staying very well. Okay, salt on one side, and then I'm gonna add my 10 grams of yeast on the other. Now again, yeast and salt really don't get along well with one another. Salt can tend to kill yeast. So you just go ahead and you mix in the yeast so it's incorporated, and then you can mix in the salt. Okay, so now I've got that. Now I'm gonna go prepare my 360 milliliters of cold water. Hi. Okay, so I just went out and I measured 360 milliliters of cold water, as well as the olive oil, which is 140 milliliters. So I'm gonna add about 40 milliliters of that to the bowl. And then I'm going to slowly add 3/4 of the water, not all of the water, because I probably don't need all of it. But you can see how I'm slowly mixing in the water. I'm not doing it in all one fell swoop. I'm doing it very slowly. And now 3/4 is there, and I'm gonna move it around in my hand and start to knead it. And once it becomes one whole dough, I'm going to dump some olive oil onto the table and start kneading it again. Okay, I now have a clean surface. I'm going to dump some of that olive oil I've figured out, and I'm going to dump my dough on there and make sure to get every last little bit. And I'm gonna knead this for about 5 to 10 minutes until it starts to turn into a really substantial dough. actually be relatively soft and elastic once you've sort of done it for about 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm actually just gonna go ahead and rub it in some olive oil. Do this little boule former. So I'm just pulling on the inside and I'm gonna form this little ball, right? So now it looks really beautiful. And I'm going to put it in a well-oiled bowl and make sure there's enough oil on top so that it doesn't get crusty while it's rising. And I'm gonna put it in a very, very, very warm place, like a proving drawer ideally, but I know we're not in British Bake Off, a lot of people don't have that. So just anywhere near an oven, just not on a hot surface. Like if the oven's on, don't put it on the oven or anything like that, but put it in a place that's relatively warm. And I leave it there covered in a tea towel for about 1 hour until it's doubled in size. Through it. So when the dough is ready, after about an hour, what I did was stretch it out with my hands. Now, it's actually a fairly elastic dough, so it's actually not gonna break. You know, you can squish it with your hands into the corners. You can, you know, toss it around like a pizza dough. Just get fun with it. You know, be fun with it. Position though, basically trying to get it to all the corners of your pan and like pretty even across the board. And then you do the thing that focaccia calls for, which is you press your fingers into it to make these divots, finger divots. And then I poured more olive oil on top because obviously. Now, the next step, I'm actually going to put it in a plastic bag and I'm going to let it rise in there while my oven preheats to around 450. But while that's happening, I'm actually, because I'm making pizza, I'm going to make all my toppings. So I'm going to saute some onions. I'm maybe going to throw some herbs in there, maybe some garlic. What else am I putting on there? I'm going to grate all my cheese. I have a lot of Parmesan, so I'm going to grate. And then I'm also going to make sure that while this is happening, that my oven is preheating, okay? So I know I already said that, but just to remind you. So 450 degrees Fahrenheit while this rises in a bag. See you soon. Hi guys, welcome back. Okay, so the focaccia's been hanging out for about an hour. It's risen slightly, it's getting a little puffier. At this point, I'm actually going to, if I'm making pizza, what I'm gonna do is actually pre-cook it so it gets a little crispy, and then I'm gonna add the toppings to finish it. If I'm just doing focaccia, then at this point I would entirely cook it for 15 minutes. Okay, so let's do both scenarios. If I'm focaccia, I'm just going to salt and herb it and throw it into my oven, 15 minutes, and she's ready to go. Pizza, follow these next steps. Okay, so she's good to go. I'm going to take her out of the plastic bag and add some toppings. For this first bake, I'm just gonna add some salt across the top. You can also add some herbs here, but I'm gonna wait. Also, shout out to Emily Billigus. She makes these t-shirts called Get the Fuck Away From Me. And they support her band, Wild Yop. So go to Wild Yop on Instagram or Wild Yop on Google. And you can buy one of these shirts and support your local artist. Okay, so this goes into the oven for pizza. I'm gonna do about 7 minutes, half cook it. And then we're gonna do toppings and finish it off. Hey guys, okay, so I pulled my focaccia out, and if I'd been cooking just focaccia, I would have left it in for 15 minutes, it would be good to go. However, I'm making pizza. So now I pulled it out after 7 minutes and should have this kind of soft sheen to it. I let it rest for a little bit so that it would deflate because it was puffed up a lot. Now I'm going to add the toppings I have, which is some sauteed onions, caramelized onions. So good. Some pizza sauce, pre-made, found from the grocery store. Thank you, Co-op. Some fresh herbs. And then my cheese. My Parmesan is 1 layer, and then I also have some burrata. All right, I'll come back with the final product. You guys, here we go. She's all in there. Now, of course, if you had Parmesan and mozzarella or any other cheeses, you could throw on there. But I think that burrata's gonna look so good. All right, tossing it in. Let's see how she does. And there you have it, folks. The final pizza. Dun, 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 dun.